"Undress now." His voice sounded so dark and deep. His brown eyes met mine as I stood in front of him, baffled and flabbergasted. "Fuck, what is happening?" Mr. Black walked to me with an intense stare. His gaze seemed to pierce in my core that my system shivered more and more with every step he made towards me. I stepped back but was only trapped in between the cold wall and Mr. Black's body. I gulped hard as I smelled his manly and elegant scent. His thigh is on the level of my eyes while his body is just centimeters away from mine. I thought he'd stop but I was wrong. He saw to it that his chest would hit my body, completely trapping me in between him and the wall. He placed his hands on each side of my body as he leaned closer to my ear. "Didn't you hear me, Miss Campbell?" I said, "Undress now." His authoritative voice sent shivers to my spine. I was scared. My mind was blank. I didn't know what I would do. But damn it, his scent and husky voice is telling me to do whatever he is asking. I must have gone insane. I bit my lip, unable to move. "Do you want me to undress you then?" he asked me again. My eyes widened at what he just asked. Why does the picture of him undressing me bothered me more than the idea that I am undressing myself? His husky voice never left my ear. He bended down a little and placed his hand on the hem of my pencil skirt. His rough palm welcomed my skin so dearly, as if he's trying to be delicate on me. He slowly moved up until his fingers were already inside my skirt. When he reached the hem of my underwear, he pulled it strongly that it got ripped and fell down on the floor. I gasped at what he just did. How? I was breathless and speechless at the same time. All the words have crooked and twisted and coiled in my head. He smirked, but his eyes were more piercing and fierce than ever. "Do you want me to rip all of your clothes, or are you going to undress for me?" he asked in a threatening voice. My breathing hitched as I shook my head. "No, Mr. Black." He narrowed his eyes on me. "What do you mean, no, Miss Campbell?" I bit my lip and took a deep breath. All right, maybe this is good too. That's what I told myself when I know for a fact that nothing about this is good. How could this be good? I feel like a prostitute. I should at least feel like a royal concubine, but I don't. I feel cheap and it's slowly tearing up my heart. But then, as I closed my eyes, all I could imagine is the slump that I am in now. I can't stay there forever. I want to rise again. I want to rise above the people who stole everything from me. Maybe this is a way to strengthen up my emotions. Maybe if I give in to what he wants now, I would begin to have a stronger mentality. And then, I'll be able to do everything for what's rightfully mine. I took a deep breath and stood up straight. Mr. Black stared at me, as if waiting for me to move. He seemed to be anticipating. I started to remove the buttons of my blouse without breaking eye contact with Mr. Black. He stared back at me as I started undressing myself. He seemed so interested, and I don't know why it somehow helped my guts to undress in front of him. When I reached the lowest button, I removed my blouse and stood in front of him with only my white lace bra. His expression changed as he looked at my breasts. I wanted to run away and never show myself to anyone for a year. But then, how can I run when I don't even have a top? Damn! He smirked at me but he didn't speak. I unhooked my bra slowly, freeing my breasts. I let the brassiere fall down as I stood in front of him, half naked. His eyes never left my breast. He licked his lower lip several times and it made something inside me fire up. I can't believe I find it hot for him to lick his lips multiple times. "Take everything off," he said when his eyes met mine again. His stare is filled with unadulterated lust. I removed the hook of my skirt and, without a word, he helped me pull it down before grabbing me by my butt, making me straddle him. He immediately attacked my lips with wild kisses as he leaned my back on the wall. My hands immediately wrapped around his neck as I unknowingly responded to the hot kisses he's giving me. His hand went to my breast and massaged it before playing with mine. What he did made my other nipple erect and my fire ignite once more. He rubbed my folds on the erection, bulging from his pants. "Are you going to be ready for this?" he asked me as he continued rubbing his cloth-clad member on my fold. I moaned incoherent words as he pulled one nip on his mouth and sucked it like a baby and his favorite candy. I bit my lip multiple times as I pushed his head on my chest more. "Fuck, I want more." He looked at me and smirked. "Baby, I want inside you." Oh, hot damn. "What's happening?" I asked Tiena as I arrived at the office tonight. The whole office is in chaos. Everyone is frantic and panicking like something bad is going to happen. Yena and my other friends are all crying. I work in a telecommunications agency as a customer service representative for about 2 years now. It is my main job as I have a sideline in a cafe near my apartment. Yena went to me and hugged me while crying. Big Boss is going to jail because of tax evasion. And now, the investigators are in his office. Team leader says the whole telco will stop operating starting today. My eyes widened at what she said. Mr. Penthon, aka Big Boss, is known to be a diligent taxpayer. How can this happen now? More than anything, I can't believe that this is even true. What are we going to do now, Heaven? Yena bawled as she hugged me tighter. I understand why Yena is this devastated. Her mom is in the hospital because of a weak heart. Her insurance is the only thing saving her mom. And now that our job is going to be taken away, how could she help her mother? I tried to console her. "Don't worry, you'll get another job soon," I told her. But that didn't make her feel better at all. She cried even more. I sighed and just hugged her. I don't know her pain. I shouldn't be the one to talk. The door of Mr. Penson's office opened and the investigators came out of it one by one. Mr. Penson came out last with two policemen tailing him. He told something to his secretary before being dragged by the police. Mr. Billy, Big Boss secretary, walked to the bulletin board and posted a notice. With the way I see it, I think it's the memo that the office will be shut down starting tomorrow. Mr. Billy sighed and faced us. "I have a memorandum from Mr. Penthon," he started. "This is to announce the sudden closure of this company effective tomorrow morning, Tuesday, March 28, 2017. In line with this, all employees will receive their monthly salary with corresponding bonuses." He then took out several envelopes from his bag and called out our name one by one. "That's the salary and the bonuses. We can't really do anything about this now. This is all prepared. We don't have any other choice." After getting the envelopes one by one, we all emptied our tables, taking everything we own. My heart is so heavy as I pack my things. This job has been my main source of living for 2 years, and now that I have lost it, I need to look for another job that's going to pay me as much or even much more than this. We all walked home dejected and sad. From here, most of us don't know how to start again. My colleagues even stayed in the company longer than me. They have dedicated their lives on the telco, and now it closed suddenly. It's like losing one portion of their lives in a blink of an eye. I sighed and walked home. Normally, walking makes me think clearly, but this time, it only made me think about the uncertainties in this life. I've thought that the job is my lifeline, so now I feel like I'm not going to push through life again. How will I be able to start again? Will I be in the slump again? You only have until this Friday of this week to settle your dues or I will be forced to kick you out of the building. Heaven. Mrs. Oliver's words were marked with finality. I nodded and sighed as I fixed my sling bag that's been looking older than me. I've been out the whole day to look for another job because the current one I have now isn't paying me enough to afford to eat 3 times a day. How can I expect it to pay for my rent too? I opened the rusty door of my apartment. I planned on having it painted on the first time I got here, but until now, it's still rusty. It's even rustier to be honest. The salary I have from the job I have now is just enough for me to eat a good breakfast and dinner. How can I even afford a good paint on the door? And besides, I'm always out so I don't have to paint it anymore. I'm not at home most of the day anyway. It's a miracle that I have lived through this slump for so long. After my father died and all the inheritance went to my evil stepmother and her evil daughter, I got nothing. My dad was a businessman. He owned one of the convenience store chains. He's intelligent but then thing is, he doesn't know how to love right. Or maybe he was a slave for love. His love and loyalty from my stepmother is through the roof. Everything my stepmother says, he does it without questions and reservations. He would always put her first, above all else, even before me. Most of the time, it makes me think about if he's ever loved my mother like this. My mom died when she gave birth to me, according to my Nanny Bella. It was a difficult choice for my dad. He doesn't want to lose mom, but he doesn't want to lose me either. In the end, it was me who was saved, not because it was dad's decision, but because it's mom's. It was her wish, technically, her death wish. I let out a deep breath and shook my head. I can think about the past now. I've gone through that part of my life. It was this job that saved me then. I can't let that happen again. I have to look for a job now before my savings run out. Good day, heaven. Mrs. Oliver greeted me as I entered the place. I smiled at her and nodded that I have to go. She's in a good mood today. I wonder if the tenants pay the bills on time. Ah, I have to pay her rent tomorrow before I go job hunting. I stopped at the door of my unit. It's been new. When I got the job as a customer service representative, I swore to myself to buy myself a new door. I did not just paint it. I bought a new one with multiple locks. Little by little, my life has been better. I got promoted 4 times in those 2 years that I have been in the company. I earned enough savings after paying for all the debts I have. Perhaps my life was kind of stable. It is only now that I am scared of the future. I brought out my keys and unlocked the door. I entered my unit and threw my bag on the floor as I lay down on the couch. What to do next, heaven? I sighed and did my normal routine at home before heading to bed. Tossing and turning around, I couldn't find my position to sleep well. So I got up and took my laptop to search for jobs online. 30 minutes later, I was scrolling down at the ads and the jobs posted on a certain website, but I haven't came across something that would pay me well. If possible, I would want another CSR position since that's what I have been used to. But then, anything that would do as long as it pays well and I qualify to the requirements. I was scrolling absent-mindedly when a $5,000 sign came across my site. I stopped there and clicked the link to know more about the job. Secretarial position, Black Realty and Construction Company. Monthly salary, $5,000, excluding overtime and benefits. Qualifications, female, 23 to 28 years old. At least high school graduate with GED. Computer literate. Can work under pressure. Willing to work overtime during some holidays and on calls. Requirements. Curriculum vitae. 2 whole body pictures, transcript of records, diploma, medical certificate, interview date April 2, 2017. Please wear your corporate attire. I gulped as I stared on the screen. This job offers the best out of all the secretarial jobs I have browsed so far. Normally, it would be around $2,000 to $3,000, but this is huge. I wonder if it's because of the company name. I listed all the requirements and noted to get them all by tomorrow. I need to visit a medical clinic for the medical certificate. I need to obtain 2 whole body pictures. I wonder why they need it though. Won't 2 by 2 be enough? But then again, I still finish the requirements on time. On the day of the interview, I wore my cream button down top and a black pencil skirt. I finished my look with a black blazer and black closed shoes. This could be corporate enough. I researched on the Black Realty and I was in awe of how it stood on the economic sector of the government. It is one of the biggest construction companies in the whole of Illinois. It has been around for more than 50 years and is proven and tested. Most of the nicest buildings in Chicago were all projects of the Black Realty. I smiled to myself as I remembered the new CEO of the company. It was passed over to the only son, Mr. Leonard Black, Sage Otheus Black. I also researched about him. He's an uptight and a serious man. Well, that's how the media described him. Black Realty's Sage Otheus Black, an uptight and serious CEO. Black Realty's new CEO, Sage Otheus Black, the hottest bachelor in town. I shook my head and sighed. I've seen his pictures from the press conference and also from the night of the turnover. He's dashing and handsome. But there's something more to the handsome features that this man has. However, that's not my business anymore. I just need to land this job to end this slump. When the cab stopped in front of the black building, I was in awe. It was as if I was looking at a metallic building or a base from a sci-fi film. Is this for real? I paid for the fare and stepped out of the cab, but my eyes never left this magnificent building in front of me. Big bold letters are written and encrypted on the facade. Black Realty and Construction. Damn, can I handle working here? Ah, damn it, heaven. You have to work here or you get broke again. I snapped out of my thoughts and started walking to the entrance. If I wanted to work here, I have to get used to the sight of this marvelous building. So, I gathered all my strength and focus on aching this job interview. Or so I thought I could do so. Applicant, "What's your name?" the receptionist asked me as I stopped by her table. Heaven Campbell," I replied as I showed her my ID. She nodded and wrote something on the record book. She placed it on the counter so I could see it too. "Would you please sign in right here, Miss Campbell?" she asked politely. I nodded and took her pen to sign on the space beside my name. I gently handed her pen back to her. She smiled at me before keeping the record book. "Mr. Black is in his office. You can use the elevator and click on the top floor." I looked at her, confused. I would talk to Mr. Black, not to the human resource officer? I asked her. She chuckled and shook her head. Apparently, all of Mr. Black's secretaries are interviewed by him personally. She explained, and it made me even more nervous. What the hell? I'm going to be interviewed by the CEO? "You have to go now, Miss Campbell. Mr. Sage Black doesn't like waiting." She smiled at me and I didn't have any other choice but to walk to the elevator and proceed to the CEO's office. My mind was in a daze. How can I possibly ace this interview if my mind is coiled right now? Damn it. I absent-mindedly pressed the topmost floor. I couldn't think straight. How can I even think straight? I have to clear my mind. I have to empty my head if I wanted to land this job. No, I have to land this job, whatever it takes. The elevator door opened. I walked out of it and was stunned to see huge office of the CEO. Letters on top of a big double door. The whole top floor is his office. I can see a table like that of the reception on the right side of the door. Secretary, it said, making me think that it is the table of the secretary. "You may enter the office." I almost jumped when someone suddenly spoke in the intercom that is heard in the whole floor. It was a deep voice. I'm guessing it's Mr. Sage Black. I took a deep breath before dragging my feet to the door of the CEO's office. Every step I took chopped a jolt of my energy. My mind, again, is in a whirlwind. Everything I have in mind is flying and floating in the air. How could I even make this interview? I feel so out of myself. I shivered as I touched the door with my palm. It took me 3 seconds before I could push it open. I swallowed hard as I stared at the sitting handsome human behind a table. He's wearing a black tuxedo over his white button-down shirt and a gray tie. He looked ethereal, to be honest. He's like a demigod who stepped into the world. I don't know what to say. I can't be mistaken. This is Mr. Sage Black. He pursed his lips in a thin line as he stared at me. His brown eyes seemed mesmerizing and dreamy at the same time. "What's your name?" His voice made me snap out of my thoughts. I looked at him and stood erect. I slowly approached him until I was in front of his table. "I'm Heaven Angeline Campbell," I replied to him, trying to mask the anxiety running in my veins. He raised his brow and motioned for me to take a seat in front of him. "Let me see your qualifications," he said in a stern voice. I gulped as I handed him my folder of credentials. Just simply sitting in front of him intimidates the hell out of me. Will I even get this job? Or if I do, will I be able to do what is expected of me to do? Or am I only going to be a nuisance to him? Damn, all of these negative thoughts won't let me calm down. I wanted to calm down but I couldn't make myself to do so. This is so annoying. He browsed my curriculum vitae. His eyebrows are creased as he turned the pages of it. Damn, am I doomed? I finished senior high school and excelled on my GED. I even excelled on the SAT, but I wasn't able to attend college, so it was kind of useless. My heart is pounding as I looked at him reading through my credentials. It's as if he is frying me alive. It's terrifying as hell. He didn't reach the whole body pictures. He looked at me, and then at the pictures again. He smirked. "You actually look better in person," he said in a teasing voice. I narrowed my eyes at him. Did he just tease me? After being so uptight and intimidating, he had the guts to tease me. What is he, bipolar? "Thank you, sir." It was all I could say to his teasing. No matter how annoyed I am, I still have to impress him because the sad reality is he's still the boss and my future lies on his decision. He heaved a deep sigh before closing the folder. He put it on the table, on top of the numerous folders he is reading. He linked both of his hands and stared at me with his tantalizing eyes. "You're hired," he said monotonously. I looked at him with wide eyes. Is he serious? That's it? He doesn't have any questions for me? I wanted to jump in joy and happiness, but I couldn't bring myself to. I'm dumb, weirded out. Is he for real? He looked at me with an readable expression. "I know you might be thinking that I gave you the job easily, but it's not the case," he said as he pointed at the folders on the left side of his table. "These are the folders of the applicants I got, and nobody impressed me more than you do." I sat there, in front of him, stunned and flabbergasted. He smirked. His eyes turned different. It's as if he's trying to do something to me with his eyes alone. "You're hired. You can start today." I nodded absent-mindedly. I feel like a stupid girl in front of a stranger. But damn, this stranger will be the one that will give me $5,000 a month. I have to be respectful. "Stand up," he commanded. I immediately stood up from my seat. Fuck, did I sit too long? Should I have asked what I would do first? Mr. Black stood as well. "Come nearer." His stern voice is sending shivers to my spine. I slowly and awkwardly walked towards him. He faced me. "Undress now." His voice sounded so dark and deep. His brown eyes met mine as I stood in front of him, baffled and flabbergasted. Fuck, what is happening? Mr. Black walked to me with an intense stare. His gaze seemed to pierce in my core that my system shivered more and more with every step he made towards me. I stepped back but was only trapped in between the cold wall and Mr. Black's body. I gulped hard as I smelled his manly and elegant scent. His thigh is in the level of my eyes while his body is just centimeters away from mine. I thought he'd stop but I was wrong. He saw it that his chest would hit my body, completely trapping me in between him and the wall. He placed his hands on each side of my body as he leaned closer to my ear. "Didn't you hear me, Miss Campbell? I said undress now." His authoritative voice sent shivers to my spine. I was scared. My mind was blank. I didn't know what I would do. But damn it, his scent and husky voice is telling me to do whatever he is asking. I must have gone insane. I bit my lip, unable to move. "Do you want me to undress you then?" he asked me again. My eyes widened at what he just asked. Why does the picture of him undressing me bother me more than the idea that I am undressing myself? His husky voice never left my ear. He bended down a little and placed his hand on the hem of my pencil skirt. His rough palm welcomed my skin so dearly, as if he's trying to be delicate on me. He slowly moved up until his fingers were already inside my skirt. When he reached the hem of my underwear, he pulled it strongly that it got ripped and fell down on the floor. I gasped at what he just did. How? I was breathless and speechless at the same time. All the words have crooked and twisted and coiled in my head. He smirked, but his eyes were more piercing and fierce than ever. Do you want me to rip all of your clothes, or are you going to undress for me? He asked in a threatening voice. My breathing hitched as I shook my head. No, Mr. Black. He narrowed his eyes on me. What do you mean, no, Miss Campbell? I bit my lip and took a deep breath. All right, maybe this is good too. That's what I told myself when I know for a fact that nothing about this is good. How could this be good? I feel like a prostitute. I should at least feel like a royal concubine, but I don't. I feel cheap and it's slowly tearing up my heart. But then, as I closed my eyes, all I could imagine is the slump that I am in now. I can't stay there forever. I want to rise again. I want to rise above the people who stole everything from me. Maybe this is a way to strengthen up my emotions. Maybe if I give in to what he wants now, I would begin to have a stronger mentality. And then, I'll be able to do everything for what's rightfully mine. I took a deep breath and stood up straight. Mr. Black stared at me, as if waiting for me to move. He seemed to be anticipating. I started to remove the buttons of my blouse without breaking eye contact with Mr. Black. He stared back at me as I started undressing myself. He seemed so interested, and I don't know why it somehow helped my guts to undress in front of him. When I reached the lowest button, I removed my blouse and stood in front of him with only my white laced bra. His expression changed as he looked at my breasts. I wanted to run away and never show myself to anyone for a year. But then, how can I run when I don't even have a top? Damn! He smirked at me but he didn't speak. I unhooked my bra slowly, freeing my breast. I let the brassiere fall down as I stood in front of him, half naked. His eyes never left my breast. He licked his lower lip several times and it made something inside me fire up. I can't believe I find it hot for him to lick his lips multiple times. Take everything off, he said when his eyes met mine again. His stare is filled with unadulterated lust. I removed the hook of my skirt and, without a word, he helped me pull it down before grabbing me by my butt, making me straddle him. He immediately attacked my lips with wild kisses as he leaned my back on the wall. My hands immediately wrapped around his neck as I unknowingly responded to the hot kisses he's giving me. His hand went to my breast and massaged it before playing with my nipple. What he did made my other nipple erect and my fire ignite once more. He rubbed my folds on the erection, bulging from his pants. Are you going to be ready for this? He asked me as he continued rubbing his cloth-clad member on my fold. I moaned incoherent words as he pulled one nipple on his mouth and sucked it like a baby and his favorite candy. I bit my lip multiple times as I pushed his head on my chest more. Fuck, I want more. He looked at me and smirked. Baby, I want inside you. Oh, hot damn. Miss Campbell, I need a folder on the expenses of the company now. I heard Mr. Black's commanding voice on the intercom. I gulped and responded, I'll be there, sir. I fixed my skirt and blouse before taking the folder on my table and walking inside Mr. Black's office. I pushed the door and saw him staring at his laptop with furrowed brows. He's playing with his fountain pen on his fingers. I took a deep breath and walked towards him without him looking at me. He's so focused on his laptop and on whatever is written on the screen. I faked a cough, making him look at me. I get the folder that you were asking for, Mr. Black. I stuttered as soon as his eyes landed on mine. Events from the interview day flashed back inside my head. Damn, I've been trying so hard to forget that all week, but whenever his eyes find mine, I just lose it and tremble. He raised his brows at me. Are you alright, Miss Campbell? He asked in a cold tone. I nodded. I'm fine, sir. Oh, damn. He smirked and sat straight while patting his lap. Come here, he said. I narrowed my eyes and didn't speak. I was unable to move because of my pounding heart. This is just too crazy. Did he mean I would sit on his lap? Miss Campbell, I just gave out an order. Come here, he said again, but now with more conviction. I swallowed hard as I slowly walked towards him. My knees were trembling hard as I bended them to sit on his lap. His arms wrapped around my waist instantly. Have you visited an OB? He asked softly. My eyes widened at his question. Suddenly, it all flashed back again. Are you on protection? He asked as he unbuckled his belt and unbuttoned his black slacks. I looked at him and shook my head. He bit his lip and stared at my eyes again. When was the last time you had sex? He asked so vulgarly that it makes me shiver in cold and embarrassment. I bit my trembling lip before shyly answering, This is my first time. His eyes widened at my confession. He looked so shocked and confused at the same time. His deep brown eyes turned lighter and softer. Where have you been hiding? He asked in a soft voice. I bit my lip and didn't respond. How do I respond to that? He caressed my sleek folds, again making me moan in a different emotion. You are so innocent that you make me want to own you over and over again, he uttered before crushing his lips onto mine with a searing kiss. He cupped my buttocks and I straddled him by the waist. He walked towards the couch. He laid me slowly on the soft cushion before he hovered on top of me. He's topless and I can see how ripped and firm his muscles are. He has a tattoo on his left chest. It is his last name in tribal font. I traced it with my fingers, earning a groan from him. Baby, your touch is going to be the end of me, he whispered before pulling an apple into his mouth, sucking it like a baby. His thumb fondled on the other while his tongue rolled over and over on my nipple. Oh, Mr. Black, I moaned as I feel a foreign sensation build up in me. He continued what he was doing. No, it was intensified. My heart is pounding so loudly as I arched my back to make him closer to me. Pleasure is starting to take over me. This is my first time feeling this so. I am only reacting based on my instincts. Baby, I am on the edge now, he whispered to me and He rubbed his fully erected member on my sleek folds. My eyes widened at the contact. It fired something into my core because the next thing I know, I was the one moving to rub my folds against his rock-hard member. His kiss went up to my neck and then to my jaw before stopping near my earlobe. "I'm going to try to not hurt you so much," he whispered as I felt his member poking on my entrance. Pain sliced through me as I felt him entering me slowly. I bit my lip as hard as I can to not be able to let out a cry. I shut my eyes forcefully as he filled me to the brim. "I'm sorry, baby," he told me before crushing his lips on mine again, owning my small cavern over and over again. His huge hand cupped my breasts and massaged each of them alternately. "Do you feel me inside you?" I nodded my head. How can I not feel his long, huge and hard member? I can even feel a pulsating sensation in between my walls. I bet it's his member inside me. I moved my hips slowly and he hushed me. "Baby, it will hurt if you move now," he told me sweetly that I am almost shocked. I grunted under him while trying to move my hips. "Please, Mr. Black," I begged. He muttered a series of curses before slowly moving in and out of me. He lifted my head to kiss my lips once again as his thrust started to increase their pace. I moaned his name over and over again as his member hit a spot every single thrust. My nails dug into his back as he thrusted deeper and faster inside me. I can hear the sound of our skin slapping with each plunge. He's sweating on top of me as he stared at me with eyes full of intense, unadulterated lust. I stared back at him, trying to equal the intensity of emotions he is showing me. "Fuck, I'm coming," he cursed with a strained voice. I moaned out loud as I feel a surge of emotions building in me. With every thrust, I feel like I am about to reach something. And damn, I want to reach it as soon as possible. He thrusted once more and I felt my insides exploding with his member. He let out a ferocious growl as he pulled out in front of me and exploded on my stomach. He panted and cupped my face. "Next time, I'll be coming inside you. I'll wait until you see an OB before we do this again," he said as he planted a kiss on my forehead. I was heavily breathing and eyes closed. I was tired. Damn, it has drained all of me. "Let's get you cleaned up." He took my hand and led me towards the shower room of his office. "Hey baby, I asked you a question." I snapped out of my thoughts as I felt his lips on my neck, his leaving feather kisses on my neck up to my jaw. I tilted my head. "It tickles me," and he chuckled on that. "I'm sorry, I haven't visited the OB," I replied. He wanted me to get the best contraceptive so he wouldn't hold back when we had sex again. Well, I would agree with that because I am not ready to have a family yet. And besides, sex is only to fill the needs of the boss. It's not like we're doing it because we have feelings for each other. Oh, he mumbled as he continued to kiss me on the jawline up to my ear. "You want me to come?" he asked as he hugged me tighter. I looked at him and shook my head. "No, sir, I can handle," I told him. He raised his brow at me before sighing. "You can take a half day today so you can visit the OB." he suggested. But you have a lot of things to do this afternoon. You'll need a secretary. Shh! I need you to visit the OB. I can't wait until I can own your body again, he said in a husky voice. I bit my lip and was left with no choice but to agree with him. I'll be quick then. I'll be back after the visit so I can arrange your schedule for tomorrow, I told him. He smiled and nodded. Sure, baby, if that's what you want. He let me sit on his lap while he read a report on his laptop. I said I could just go, but he said he could use a little distraction. He was constantly inhaling my scent and kissing my jaw while reading. I don't know how he could concentrate on reading while he's busy with other things. After lunch, I immediately went to the nearest OB clinic in the office. I don't even know why I'm doing this for him. I know it's wrong. It's not normal to give my all with someone I just met. But damn, whenever I think of the emotions he made me feel that time, it's so hard to say no. My back is aching. I saw a pregnant woman complaining to her husband as they walked out of the clinic. I gulped as I saw how affectionate the husband was to her. I shook my head. I shouldn't be swayed by these kind of things right now. I took another deep breath as I stepped inside the clinic. It isn't that big, so I am kind of relieved to step inside alone. There's a receiving area where a nurse is kindly accommodating the walk-ins. The nurse smiled at me. Hi ma'am, may I know how I may help you? She asked. I tightened my grip on the sling of my bag. I would want to see a doctor to ask about contraception. I kind of looked stupid in there. I know. The nurse smiled at me and nodded professionally. Just how many patients asking about contraception is she accommodating every day? She must have been used to questions like that. Another nurse took my information before asking me to wait for my turn on the OB. I watched the patients coming in and out of the consultation room. Most of the women are pregnant and are accompanied by their partners. I smiled watching a term mother complaining about her contractions. Her husband looked at her and smiled at her. He massaged her lower back that's probably painful as well. Miss Heaven Angeline Campbell, someone called me. It's your turn. I stood up and walked towards the examination room. I pushed the door and saw a female doctor, around early 30s. In front of her is a plaque with her name, Georgina Nova, MD, OB-GYN. Good afternoon, I shyly spoke. Good afternoon, Miss Campbell. You may take your seat, she said in a hospitable way. I sat in front of her table. Thank you. She smiled at me. I read on your file that you have inquiries about contraception, she said as she browsed my file. I nodded silently. Do you have history of irregular menstruations? She asked. I shook my head. I always have my period every month, I replied. She nodded. Do you have a history of ovarian or breast cancer? I shook my head. Family history. I shook my head again. She continued to ask me a lot of questions until she told me that she would recommend me to have a Depo-Provera shot instead. She said that it would be the most convenient for me because of my busy life. I agreed to what she said, so she asked me to sit on the examination table as she prepared the medicine. When it was ready, she asked me to take a deep breath as she injected it on my left arm. You need to refrain from sexual intercourse for the next 7 days, but if it can't be helped, you may use a condom, she explained. You can come back here after 3 months for the next shot if you would like. I stood up and nodded. Thank you, doctor, I told her before leaving the room and going straight to the cashier to pay, but I was shocked to see Mr. Black standing there, waiting for me. He was wearing casual clothes as he walked towards me. Is it finished? He asked before kissing my cheek. I nodded. He pulled me close to his side. Let's get you home then, he said as he led me towards his black Range Rover, while all the women in the clinic looked at him with twinkling eyes. My mind is still processing everything that's happening in my life. It's been a week since I started working for Mr. Black. It's been a week that he's been so touchy and kissy all over me. It's not normal, I know, but how will I be able to decline it? He's my boss, and probably deep inside me, I long for his touch too. My doorbell rang. It's 6 in the evening. It's been 2 hours since Mr. Black drove me home and I am not expecting anyone to come. So who is this? I checked myself first before answering the door. I looked decent with a gray tank top and a pair of white shorts. I opened the door and was shocked to see Mr. Black on the door. He's still wearing the casual clothes he was wearing a while back. His gaze was directed to my body as he stood at the opposite side of the door. He then lifted his gaze and looked at me. You look hot, Miss Campbell, he uttered as he raised his hand holding a brown paper bag. Brought you dinner, he smiled. I bit my lip and tried to mask the shock in my system. I opened the door wider and offered him to come in. He was looking around my apartment as he entered. I closed the door and locked it behind me. He smiled and looked at me. Your home is decent, he commented. I nodded and smiled weakly before taking the paper bag from his hand, putting it on the kitchen table. It's smaller than your office, sir, I replied. He chuckled and walked to my back. My eyes widened as he trapped me in between the kitchen table and his body. I like small places, he said as he planted kisses on my earlobe down to my shoulder. I tilted my head. It still tickles. You smell so damn good. He sniffed my hair. I gulped. I took a bath, I stuttered. I'm sure you did, he replied and continued kissing me on the shoulder and neck. Baby, what did the doctor say? He asked as his hands roamed inside my tank top. His touch sent butterflies in my stomach and blocked all electric activity to my brain. It seemed I was so lost in his touch and kisses. I couldn't think of anything else other than the way his hands traced my body. We need to use condoms for 7 days. My voice is strained because of his touch. I was surprised to even finish a whole sentence. 7 days is too long. His husky voice sent shivers to my spine. But I'll succumb to the order, he said before unclasping my brassiere. He cupped my breast, massaging each of them with his closed palms. His rough palms helped in increasing the pleasure building up inside of me. I started moaning while my hands gripped on the edge of the table. Baby, your body is driving me crazy, he whispered as his thumbs rolled my nipples, pulling them erect and hard. Oh, I moaned as one of his hands traveled down my stomach. Unbuttoning my shorts, he inserted his fingers inside my underwear and massaged my clit. My knees trembled as he rolled his fingers over my sweet spot. Mr. Black, I was out of breath as I tightened my grip on the edge of the table. He kissed my jaw before turning me around, making me face him. His lips crushed to mine as soon as I faced him, owning every corner of my small cavern. He thrusted his tongue inside my mouth multiple times, making me moan through the kiss. He removed his hand inside my underwear and carried me towards the couch without breaking the kiss. I immediately snaked my arms around his neck, pulling his face close to mine even more. I sucked on his lower lip as he placed me slowly on the couch. He pulled away from the kiss, but only because he removed all of my clothing, leaving me in my birthday suit. Fuck, he muttered as he delved into my sleek folds. His tongue clicked and circled around my clit as my fingers combed his hair. I was moaning his name over and over as he thrusted his tongue inside my hole. Damn, I can feel a building sensation in my stomach as he continued what he was doing. I'm coming. I was breathless as I uttered the sentence. He fastened his face until I came on his mouth. He pushed a finger inside my entrance and licked it before removing his shirt. Something inside me fired up as I saw the tattoo on his chest again. I left my head and kissed it. He groaned before pushing me back and kissing me on the lips passionately. My hands traced his ripped torso until I found the waistband of his shorts. I undid his buttons and pushed his shorts and boxers down, freeing his proud glory. I held his huge member and pumped using my hand. It's too huge. My whole hand isn't even enough to cup him. I continued what I was doing until I hear him grunting and moaning off top of me. Baby, you're going to see the death of me, he whispered before taking a nipple on his mouth while his hand played the other. I moaned hard as he played with my nipple like a kid playing with his candy. I bit my lip hard. I thought it was going to bleed. He spread my legs so wide and positioned his member on the center of my folds. Baby, I didn't bring condoms but I'll pull out, I promise, he told me as his member poked on my entrance. I didn't care at all. I don't care if he's wearing a condom or not. I don't care if he's going to pull out or what. I just want him in. I want him inside me so bad that it hurts me now more than ever. I held his waist and pushed him closer to me. He muttered a series of curses as he entered me in a blink. He filled me to the brim. Unlike the first time, it doesn't hurt that much anymore. I feel like I would adjust faster now than the last time. I moved my hips the moment I felt his skin on me. Please, Mr. Black, I begged again, as if my words triggered something in him. He started moving in and out of me in a swift motion. He thrusted faster and faster, making me moan his name and whatever I can think of so loud. Ah, heaven! He moaned with his strange voice as he continued to thrust in me in an increasing pace. He cupped my face, making me open my eyes. Look at me as you come, baby. I want you to look at me as you reach your orgasm. I tried my hardest to do what I was told. I was moaning out loud as I stared into his eyes full of pleasure and lust. I'm coming, I told him, and he quickened his pace more. My uterus contracted as I reached the edge while he's still pushing in and out of me. He groaned so loud as he pulled out and exploded on the valley of my breast. He panted hard as he kissed me thoroughly on the lips. I can't wait until I could explode inside of you, he whispered as he collapsed beside me on the couch. He pulled me close to his body, securing me so I wouldn't fall down the couch. He kissed the top of my head as he buried my face onto his chest. Mr. Black, I started but he hushed me. I'm so stressed at work. This is the only time I could relax, he whispered lazily. I bit my lip and gave up on whatever I was supposed to say. I let him sleep while he hugged me. Somehow it calmed me this way too. I've heard about men leaving their flings after, but Mr. Black was different. Although he's an asshole and a playboy, he cuddled with me after sex. Heaven! I smiled as he uttered my name. Come to think of it, this is the second time he called me. The first was moments ago when we were intense, and somehow it felt different. Heaven, he repeated again. I looked up and saw his peaceful face with his eyes closed. Heaven, he uttered again. I narrowed my eyes at him but he didn't open his. Why? I asked. He raised his brows and slowly opened his eyes. Nothing. I just realized how your name sounds so good, he said before kissing me on the lips once again. I looked at him, confused and dazed. He smiled and pinched my nose. Call me Sage, please. His voice sounded so sweet. I think I'm going to melt anytime soon. Mr. Black, Sage, he corrected me. I bit my lip and took a deep breath. How can I even call him by his first name? He's my boss. If I call him that way now, it would turn into a habit. I can't let that happen. You're my boss, I told him, pouting. He raised his brow. That's why I am asking you to call me Sage. It's an order from your boss. He emphasized the last word. I stared into his brown eyes before taking a deep breath. Fine, I rolled my eyes. It wouldn't hurt calling him by his first name, I guess. Sage. Again, he ordered. Sage, I complied. Again, he ordered again. Sage Othius, he cut me off by pressing his lips on mine, giving me a searing and intense kiss once more. His tongue played with mine before pulling back and smiling widely at me. Never felt much better, he uttered as he hugged me even tighter. I smiled back at him and didn't respond. I am not going to deny it. It really feels much better. It seemed like I was close to him. Aren't you hungry? I asked out of the topic. He bit his lip. Are you available, Heaven? I'm starving but I don't think any food will do, he told me with a teasing voice. I narrowed my eyes at him before hitting him on the chest. When will you even be satiated? I asked while trying to hide out a laugh that's about to escape from my mouth. Oh baby, you don't know how you so much starve me with your heavenly body, he said before delving into my neck again and showering it with kisses. Oh Lord, I wonder how insatiable he could get. Damn. I walked inside the office with all these ladies murmuring as I walked past them. I've always known how it is in the office when one speaks ill of the other or when a group of people or colleagues are talking things behind one's back. I'm not new to this. I walked straight to the elevator without giving them any side glance or whatever. I think the best thing to tackle this is to ignore them. After all, it's not like they are the ones giving me salary. In all of my life living alone, I have learned a lot of things, but the most prominent one must be to be able to think of how to survive in this cruel world. And to survive means to not give a fuck of others, although that's actually hard enough. The elevator opened, revealing the massive territory of the CEO's office. I walked to my space and started browsing the schedule of Mr. Black for today. I have to work hard. Alright, this is for me and for my survival. I droned myself into the papers I have in front of me. I need to arrange this for Mr. Black's meeting with the Sloans this afternoon. He had been so busy with this in the past a few days, so everything has to go according to his plan. Mr. Black has stayed all night preparing for this, so I think I should do my best in arranging this too. I heard the elevator ding and there comes Mr. Black in his legendary gray suit and silver tie. He looked so good as he walked towards the office. His brown eyes met mine and he immediately smiled. He walked towards me and I couldn't help but just smiled back. "Good morning, Heaven," he said in his deep but sweet voice. I smiled at him as I stood up. "Good morning too, Sage." I bit my lip at my mistake. He had reiterated that I should call him Sage whenever we are alone. It's a hard task, but I think I could get used to it. He chuckled and placed a quick peek on my lips. "I missed you tonight," he uttered as he fiddled with my fingers. "Did you have a good sleep?" I nodded. He had a dinner meeting with one of his major investors last night, so he didn't get to come visit me at home. He sent me a text that they had to discuss some things until midnight. He lifted my hand and kissed my knuckles. "Good, because I plan on taking you over and over tonight." He winked at me before he walked towards his office. I bit my lower lip. I almost forgot that yesterday was my 7th day after the shot, which means that tonight, he can. I shook my head and tried to forget all these thoughts in my mind. I sat back and continued what I was doing. I should focus at work and not on some other trivial things. This is surely not going to help me work efficiently. When time came, I heard Mr. Black's door open. I glanced at the door and saw him walking out of it. He looked at me for a moment. "Aren't you going to eat lunch?" he asked me. "I have to finish this first," I replied. He raised his brow. "Come on, finish that later. I need to eat before I go to my meeting with the Sloans," he told me as he walked directly to the elevator. I pursed my lips in a thin line as I placed the folder in my bag. I gathered my things and followed him on the elevator. "What do you want to eat, Heaven?" Mr. Black asked me. I looked at him shyly. I still can't get used to looking at such a godly creature in front of me most of the time. I think I'm always dreaming. I don't even have to think why. And how he calls me so comfortable by my name makes me wonder what he's actually thinking of me. How does he do that without getting all awkward at work? Or was he supposed to get awkward? Or is it supposed to be just me? I don't know. "I just eat at the convenience store near." "You're eating with me. What do you mean you're going to eat at the convenience store?" he asked in a moderate angry tone. He raised his brow at me. "Do you eat your lunch there?" He seemed so shocked to hear that I eat in the convenience store nearby. It's not like I have money to afford to eat at fancy restaurants all the time. I just bit my lip and nodded. I don't want to talk to him, actually. We're inside the building and everyone thinks bad of him because he's getting close to me. I can't have someone's name destroyed because of me. I heard him inhale a sharp breath and the elevator opened. He walked out before me and I followed after. I didn't know if I was to ride a cab or if I would ride with him. I've never had lunch with him while we're at work. Most of the time, he eats in his office. But right now, since he's going to a meeting with a major company, he opted to eat out. Now I'm lost. My phone beeped as I saw Mr. Black walk to the parking lot. From Mr. Black, "Wait for me near the bus stop." I pursed my lips in a thin line as I replied, "Okay," before walking to the bus stop. I bet he knows about my worries too. He must have heard the other employees talk about my relationship with him. I waited for about 2 minutes until a black Range Rover stopped in front of me. The passenger seat door opened, revealing Mr. Black on the driver's seat with his aviators. Anyone who could see him now will think he is one of the models from a men's magazine. My heart stopped for a moment and I had to make it beat again before stepping into the car. I locked the door and fastened my seatbelt. "Do you eat Asian foods?" Mr. Black asked me before stepping on the gas. I looked at him and nodded. "Yes." "Good," he muttered before driving away. I busied myself with the skyscrapers as Mr. Black drove along the highway because I have to work 2 jobs at once before. I had not been able to stare at these huge and spectacular buildings. This is the first time in so long that I had the chance to stare at them again. I remember the days when my father drives me around town because he knows that I love to see skyscrapers. I even have a few sketches of them at home. I've always told him that I wanted to be an architect. He used to be so supportive of me and my dreams until he fell in love with my stepmother, where everything started to crumble down in my world. I almost jumped on my seat as I felt Mr. Black's hand on my thigh. I looked at him, startled, and I couldn't hide it. "You okay?" he asked me in his normal cold tone. I gulped and nodded as I calmed myself. Damn, his simple touch would make my world turn upside down and my emotions in a horrible whirlwind. When I will even get used to this? He narrowed his eyes at the highway as he removed his hand on my thigh. "You looked like you were thinking about something as you were staring at the buildings," he said without looking at me. He must have noticed. I shook my head and smiled weakly. "It's nothing," I lied. "I'm not going to talk about my father in front of him. He is my boss, and even if we are intimate, we are not in that kind of relationship where he had to know everything about me or my history. I need to keep things superficial. I need to block every stronger emotion coming from our interactions. That way, I can keep up with this game and this casual arrangement." He didn't utter another word until we arrived at a Korean restaurant. I didn't bother speaking as well. He opened the door for me and I was confused as I was going down his car. He held my hand as we entered the restaurant. He sexily removed his aviators as the receptionist welcomed us and asked for a table. She was smiling flirtatiously and I am not even wondering why. The only thing on my mind now is if all the girls act this way whenever they see Mr. Black. It must have been so annoying on his part. Mr. Black chose the table near the window. I didn't want to sit here if I were to choose because it is too exposed to the public. I, being the secretary, don't want to be seen eating with the boss in the fancy restaurants. I know for a fact that I shouldn't give a fuck, but this has to be a different scenario. I sat uneasy and I know Mr. Black noticed it because he was looking at me intently. "What's the problem?" he asked as he held my hand on top of the table. I looked at him and smiled weakly. "I'm sorry, I'm just not comfortable," I replied in all honesty. I figured he should know that I am not comfortable with him being this close to me in public. He narrowed his eyes at me. "Is this because of the gossips inside the office?" he asked with a hard tone. "I swear I'm going to fire all those people who badmouth you." My eyes widened at his statement. I immediately shook my head. "No, sir. You shouldn't do that. I'm not really affected by them. I'm more affected by your presence." I wanted to add that, but I couldn't bring myself to. His eyebrows furrowed as he looked at me. Don't lie to me now, Heaven. I have ears. I can hear them talking bad things about you, he said in a softer tone. I bit my lip. That I couldn't deny. Come on, Heaven, he said in a soft voice. It's as if he is pleading me to open up to him. I took a deep breath. It's just that you're too close. We've been closer and you know that. He cut me off. I frowned at him and he bit his lip. I meant, your workers think I am your slut. I am not affected, but I was caught off guard when he suddenly kissed me passionately in the lips in the restaurant. His hand cupped my left jaw before breaking away. His thumb brushed my cheek as he looked deep into my eyes. His features are all so close again that they make my mind go astray. You are not my slut, he said in an authoritative tone. It's not your fault that I find you more attractive than any other woman out there. I swallowed hard. I was not expecting any of this. He leaned again and kissed my forehead. Don't think of yourself that way, he said as he sat in front of me again. I nodded. My mind is so cloudy that I don't think I can last this lunch with this man in front of me. He smiled at me as he threaded his fingers with me. Dear Lord, how will I even survive? Mr. Kino Sloan is hot. If he's not with his wife, I would think that he was as hot as Mr. Black. His eyebrows are thick in an attractive way and his firm body is so evident in his black tuxedo. His wife is also elegant. It figures he wouldn't marry just any woman anyway. She smiled widely as her husband and Mr. Black talked about the companies. Apparently, the Sloans also hold one of the most reliable construction companies in Chicago. I would even think they're rivals with the Black Realty, but they're not. The staffs of this five-star hotel were looking at our table every 5 seconds. I know, I can see. Well, how can they not if this table has the most handsome people in the whole restaurant? I think it would be good if we build a project together, Sage. Mr. Kano Sloan smiled. Mr. Black nodded as he held my thigh under the table. I gulped as he drew circles on my thigh using his index finger. That would really be good, Kino. Actually, I have a project in mind. If we find another good time, let's discuss it, he uttered. Mr. Kino Sloan agreed instantly before saying goodbye to us. Apparently, his wife is pregnant and today will be their first appointment to the doctor. It makes me remember the couples I saw in the clinic last week. They all look so happy while waiting for their baby. Mr. Black gripped on my thigh one last time before standing up and shook hands with Mr. Kino Sloan. They too uttered some business words that I couldn't fathom because my mind is still on the part where Mr. Black's fingers were drawing circles on my thigh. We have to go. Have a nice day. Mrs. Sloane's voice is so sweet that I snapped out of my thoughts and smiled at her. The couple left the table with their assistants following after. I was about to take a seat but Mr. Black's fingers threaded with mine. He tugged me closer to him. Stop looking at him, damn it, he hissed. I looked at him, confused of what he is talking about. But when I saw his furrowed brows, I realized that he was referring to me looking at Mr. Sloane's back. I frowned at him. What? I asked, trying to act dumb. He narrowed his eyes at me. Let's go, he said as he pulled me out of the restaurant. He motioned the man in the valet and he immediately responded to him. In an instant, Mr. Black's black Range Rover is in our sights. Mr. Black opened the passenger door and helped me in before running to the driver's side. He nodded at the man at the valet who saluted at him before driving away. He hadn't uttered a word since we left the hotel. Neither did his brows calm down. He looked so angry at something I don't even know about. I suddenly felt afraid. Is he going to drop me off somewhere I don't know? Did I upset him? But how? I haven't been able to concentrate in the meeting because of his hand on my thigh. His face looked like he is angry at something. Well, he is, based on how he talked to me. But despite being mad, his features are so prominent that I can't help but admire how good-looking he is. No wonder all the girls who see him blush at the sight of him. Stop looking at me. I am not going to simmer down because of your pretty eyes, he told me as he slightly gritted his teeth. I pouted and looked away. I don't even know why he's making it a big deal. Why would he get mad at me for looking at Mr. Kino Sloan? The wife was even looking at him but Mr. Sloan didn't seem affected. But well, how do I even know that he's not affected at all? I just met him today. I watched the buildings and the people walking around the street as Mr. Black continued to drive with his grumpy aura. I have to think of a way to make it up to him, though he seemed really angry about him. I should at least explain, apologize. However, where are we going? Since the meeting is done, I figured we'd be going back to the office but this is not the way to the Black Realty building. I glanced at Mr. Black to ask but I retreated when I saw his clenched jaw and furrowed brows as he was looking at the highway. He suddenly pulled over at the Hayes Tower, one of the most prestigious residence buildings in the whole of Chicago. I looked at Mr. Black to ask but he was too busy glaring at the windshield. I took a silent, heavy breath and just decided to wait on the best moment to ask questions. He drove straight to the parking lot of the building. He didn't even utter a word when he went down the car. He turned to my side and opened my door. He looked at me with his angry eyes. "Come on," he said in a cold tone. He took my hand and threaded his fingers with mine as we entered the building. The security guard of the parking lot nodded at Mr. Black as we entered. I guess he knew Mr. Black. However, he looked a little confused as he looked at me. We walked straight to the elevator. Mr. Black tugged me closer to him as we waited for the elevator to come. He pulled me inside when the door opened. I saw him push the top floor button while I was pouting beside him. He's not even telling me why we're here or what we're doing here. He's leading me and I'm letting him. I have to speak up and ask him what's on my mind but his fingers on mine make me feel secured. When we were almost on the top floor, he shifted his gaze at me. "We're going to my place," he said in a calm but cold manner. I bit my lower lip as he unknowingly answered the main question in my mind. "Well, then it figures, of course, the hottest and richest bachelor in town would be living in the most prestigious condominium." The elevator opened, revealing a spacious corridor with 3 doors. Mr. Black pulled me after him without letting go of my hand. He looked like he's trying to run after something else. He pulled a key from his pocket before keying in a passcode on his door. The door beeped and immediately opened, but then There was another door where he placed the key he took from his pocket to unlock it. He closed all the doors as we entered in his spacious home. My eyes roamed around his apartment. It's at least 10 times bigger than my apartment. I bet it was what he was thinking when he entered my place the first time. The chandeliers are hanging on the living room and on the dining area. He has a small bar filled with wines and other alcoholic beverages. The wine and shot glasses are all lined up in the cabinet at the side of the bar. Wow! My mouth was ajar as I looked around. This is probably the best home I've seen live in my whole life. Oh yeah, Mr. Black spoke sarcastically beside me. I looked at him but I was welcomed with his warm lips on mine, kissing me more passionately than ever. He leaned me on the cold wall as he took over my small cavern. I couldn't help but respond to his kisses. It's as if it has enslaved me in all possible crooked ways. This is going to be your punishment, heaven. He breathed as he unbuttoned my blouse and cupped my breast while kissing me tenderly. Mr. Black, I moaned as one of his hands unclasped the hook of my brassiere, freeing my breast in an instant. He took one nipple into his mouth as he pinned me on the wall. I bit my lip hard as I felt him sucking my erected nipple with all his might as his other hand fondled with my other breast, leaving nothing neglected. My hands found their way to his head, pulling his hair as I felt a surreal pleasure. I've read about Depo shots. It is said to decrease libido, but how will mine decrease when Mr. Black is too enticing and seductive? He is too dominant that I am left with no choice but to succumb and surrender all of his sexual desires. Don't make me jealous, baby, he whispered as he kissed my earlobe, down to my jaw. He removed my top and my unhooked brassiere and threw them on the floor. He looked at me with his fiery eyes. His stare is too intense. I felt like I should look at him the same way. He's so good. I've only had him, but I know he's too good in bed. He's so good that I will surrender to him on bended knees if he wished me to. He pulled down my skirt and underwear in a swift motion. He bit his lip as he stared at my bare body again. Fuck, I missed you, he told me before kissing me again. His hand traveled from my jaw to my neck, to my breast, to my stomach, and down on my heated core. He played with my swollen bud as he showered me with hot kisses. My hands flew to his thigh. I loosened his tie before unbuttoning his white button-down shirt. He helped me remove all of his top at once. I kissed his tattoo on his left chest before unbuckling his belt. Damn, I felt his length as I accidentally touched his crotch while removing his belt. Heaven, he groaned as I pulled his pants down with his boxers, freeing his proud glory. I bended down and cupped his huge length. I could hear him grunting as I kneeled down in front of him. I bit my lip as I stared at his enormous member. I can feel it pulsating as I pumped it. I want to do it. I want to taste him. I put his member on my mouth and started thrusting it in and out. Mr. Black feasted on his hair as he controlled the rhythm of his cock on my mouth. I placed my hand on his thigh as I welcomed him fully in my mouth. He thrusted faster until I was gagging on his huge length. He let out a feral growl as he exploded on my mouth. I swallowed his juices while he pulled me up and kissed me hard and rough. He slapped my bottom 3 times before carrying me. I straddled him without breaking the kiss. I could feel his aroused member on my swollen clit. I tried to rub on it, making me moan in pleasure. "Oh, heaven!" he moaned as I fastened my face in rubbing. He pinned me on the wall again without bringing my down. "You're driving me insane, baby." He positioned his member on my sleek folds, making me grunt in pleasure. I took him in wholly as I secured my arms around his neck. "He's going to take me on the wall." I knew it, and it ignited something inside of me. He supported me by carrying me on my bottom. He captured my lips once more before slowly pumping inside me. "Sage," I blurted out as I felt him hitting my sweet spot. My back arched as he repeatedly hit my G-spot, making my muscles contract in pleasure. He pulled in one on his mouth as he fastened his face. "Oh my God!" I screamed as I felt like I have finally reached what I was trying to achieve. "Ah!" Mr. Black carried me across the room. I heard a door opening and closing. My eyes were too tired to even open that I just hung on to Mr. Black's grip for support. Suddenly, I felt my body being slowly laid down on a soft cushion. I slightly moved and noticed that I am in a bed. I can smell a manly scent on the sheets as Mr. Black fixed me so my head would be on the pillow. He started kissing me on the lips once more. This time, it's gentler than the rough kisses we shared against the wall. His lips brushed mine so I slowly and lightly that it made me pull his face closer to mine to have a better taste of his cherry red lips. "Baby, you're tired." Mr. Black's voice seemed strained as I deepened the kiss. I shook my head and pulled him even closer. With my fingers, I traced his jawline down to his neck and to his tattoo. He grunted as I accidentally touched his nipple. He crushed his lips on mine, kissing me passionately, tracing my small little cavern with his dominating mouth. I moaned as he thrusted his tongue into my mouth. I gladly welcomed him and kissed him back. He fixed himself on top of me, trapping my body in between his knees. I gasped as I felt his huge erection rubbing on my stomach as his kisses went deeper and deeper. His hands roamed around my body, tracing every single skin there is in his reach. His kisses went to my jaw, down to my neck, sucking that little soft spot right in there. "Mr. Black," I moaned as he cupped my breast, massaging one while paying on its feeble tip. "No, baby, that's not my name," he said as he pulled one nipple into his mouth, sucking it like a candy. I looked at him and saw him enjoying my nipple like it's the only enjoyable thing in this world for him. His eyes are closed as his tongue circled around my tip. "Sage," I gasped when I felt his fingers on my swollen bud. He rubbed his thumb over, making me arch my back in pleasure. My hips found rhythm as I felt him insert 2 fingers in my hole. I bit my lip as he thrusted his fingers in and out of me. I want him to go faster, and I'm getting so frustrated that he's taking his time while plunging his fingers in and out of me. "You like that?" he asked in a voice full of lust and pleasure. I moaned, "Faster!" I saw him bit his lip before taking my request. He plunged his fingers faster, hitting my sensitive spot over and over. "Oh, Sage!" I called him out as I convulsed and gum on his fingers. He smirked as he placed his fingers into his mouth, tasting my juices. "So sweet," he breathed before spreading my knees so wide. He leaned down and licked the center line before his tongue found my throbbing mound. He sucked my bud while his hands found their way to my breast, massaging and leaving nothing neglected. "Sage," I grunted as he thrusted his tongue into my sleek folds. He rubbed my nipple with his thumb and index finger, while his tongue repeatedly plunged in and out of me. I held onto his hair, grabbing fistful of it to steady his head on my core. I moaned and whimpered as I felt the familiar contractions once again. I convulsed as I reached my orgasm again. "Please," I begged. I told Mr. Black as he rose from his position before kissing me on the lips once more. "Can you taste yourself?" he murmured against my lips. I breathed heavily and nodded, but then I want more. I want him again. I want him all over again. I want to feel him in me. I want to come and explode inside me once more. I cupped his member and pumped it. He grunted and yanked my hand away from it. "Please, Sage," I begged one more time. I am so needy that I could cry if he doesn't give me what I want right now. "Not yet," he told me as sucked on my nipples again. "Oh," I whimpered as I pushed him to my side. I immediately hovered on top of him and placed my hands on his chest. I stared into his eyes that are looking at me with an unadulterated lust. His brow eyes are so intense, but that's what draws me more to him. I moaned as I positioned his member on my center. "Be careful, it might hurt," he said softly as he placed his hands on either side of my waist. He supported me as I slowly inserted his member in me. "Oh, fuck," he moaned as I consumed all of him. I moaned as I felt his pulsating member inside me. It has triggered something in me again because I started to move my waist forward and backward. "Heaven," he moaned as I fastened my pace. He shook his head and stopped me from moving. Instead, he held me by the waist and changed my movements. I slid up and down, making my breast bounce with every movement. "Baby," he moaned before pulling me down to his body, burying my face in the nook of his neck while he plunged in and out of me. I moaned nonstop as he quickened his thrust. He kissed the side of my head repeatedly as his thrust became faster hit and deeper. I matched his rhythm until I felt my orgasm taking me over little by little. "Sage," I huffed as I felt my walls contracting around his erection. I convulsed on top of him and he thrusted a few more before he followed, exploding his juices inside of me. He panted out loud as he hugged me and kissed me on the side of my head. This is my first time coming inside a woman, and it feels so good, baby. So fucking good. I smiled tiredly as I heard him say that. I am glad that I gave him something good for the first time, and with this experience, I don't think I'll be able to stop myself when I feel like surrendering myself to him again. He took my virginity, but he's the first person who made me feel this good about myself. He somehow woke up the inner ID in me, the ID that once longs for pleasure. And damn, it's nice satisfying my ID with Mr. Black. He fixed my hair and capped my face. "Sleep here for tonight. You're going to be sore tomorrow," he told me as he laid me beside him. I smiled and nodded. "I feel so tired. I guess I might have to succumb to his commands this time too. I closed my eyes and felt comfortable beside him without questions. I stared around and opened my eyes. I looked beside me and saw no Mr. Black in there. I suddenly felt empty as I pulled the blanket to my chest and sat on the bed, leaning my back on the headboard. I looked around the room. We were so intense that I didn't even bother to look around the place. I was in awe when I saw the interior design of this room. It is minimalistic, but I am sure that whoever sees this will notice how elegant the design is. There were abstract paintings on the wall that actually helped in bringing in the color of the room. I looked at the bedside table and saw a huge white t-shirt and a pair of black boxer shorts. I figured Mr. Black has prepared this for me to wear, so I did. When I was clothed, I walked to the door and a delicious scent enveloped my nose. I walked to the kitchen and saw Mr. Black's beard ripped back as he was busy cooking. I walked quietly to the table and savored the nice view from the back. He's only wearing a pair of gray sweatpants, but I bet he's able to arouse most girls' forbidden fantasies. I bit my lip as I walked to him, hugging him from the back. He was startled, but then he stretched his arms and pulled me to his side. "What's for dinner?" I asked him. He smiled and gave me a quick kiss on the lips. "Mexican?" he replied, seeming unsure. I chuckled and looked at the tortillas on the pan. He also prepared sauce topped with overflowing cheese. "You like cheese?" I asked. He smirked and leaned closer to my ear. "I like cheese more when I have to lick it from your sexy body," he said seductively. I laughed at him. "Don't try to push it," I told him as I hit his muscular and hard as rock abs. "Aren't you sore?" he asked in a voice full of concern. I bit my lip and shyly looked at him. "A little," I replied. He raised his brow at me. "Then you go back to bed and I'll serve you food there when it's ready," he commanded. I looked at him questioningly. "Go, baby," he said before leaning down and giving me another kiss. "I'm almost done here anyway," he continued when he broke the kiss. I did what he told me and went back to the room. I found the remote and turned the TV on. It was NBA that greeted me on the screen. It's the playoffs, so I decided to just continue watching it. I leaned on the headboard and enjoyed the game when the door opened, revealing Mr. Black and his god-forsaken body while holding the tray of our dinner. He was right. He cooked Mexican and it looked delectable than most of the foods I have ever tasted. The nachos were cooked good and the sauce was so tasty. The cheese blended so well with the sauce. I looked at him with amazed eyes. "You cook so good, Mr. Blah." I was cut off when he kissed me on the lips. "Sage," he corrected. I bit my lip and nodded. "I'm still getting used to it," I explained. He smirked and started feeding me. "You have to. If I hear you calling me Mr. Black again, I'm going to kiss you no matter where we are." I looked at him and bit a smile. "What are you smiling about?" he asked. I shook my head and smiled. "I just thought that your words didn't sound like a threat at all. It's the weekend and I have nothing to do but to stay at home and clean. Mr. Black Sage ordered me to quit my other job when he knew that I was working two jobs at once. I complied as I was told because I don't have any other choice anyway. So now I'm here, plump on the couch while watching the news on TV. This is the first weekend after so long that I had nothing to worry about. I was just at home and am allowed to do nothing at all. Somehow, I am not used to it, but I guess after being with Sage for the whole week, I ought to need rest. My phone vibrated on the center table. From Mr. Black. What are you doing? I bit my lower lip and immediately typed in a reply to Mr. Black. Watching TV. You? Are you enjoying your family day? Apparently, Sage had to go to their house every weekend because his mother demands family time for all of them. Well, I knew that being in the business is stressful and hectic, but it's a lot of different with Mr. Black's family. All of them had businesses of their own. Although Sage is an only son, his father had three different companies more to operate. I couldn't just imagine the schedule of Sage's father. I was so shocked when I knew that the Black Realty has only been revived by Sage after being slumped for more than a decade. That's the only moment that I realized how passionate Sage is for business. He loved business and all the money talks because if he did not, he wouldn't bother reviving this company when his father has more in his hand. My phone chimed and revealed Sage's reply from Mr. Black. We're meeting a family friend from Mr. Black. Can I come to your place tonight after this? I narrowed my eyes at his text. He's been really needy and clingy this past couple of days. Not to mention that we always have sex in his office and sometimes inside his car. And even after taking me over and over and over, he is still insatiable to Mr. Black. Well, enjoy meeting the family friend to Mr. Black. I'm planning on sleeping early because I was told by my boss that I need to have as much rest as I could get. It hasn't even been a second when my phone chimed again from Mr. Black. I'm sure your boss could use some hours for himself. I laughed at his reply and shook my head. I decided to not reply so I would not be disturbing him from his meeting with their family friend. It's lunchtime so I think they'd be with them for the whole afternoon. Later in the afternoon, I have decided to clean my whole place. I was going to throw out the things I don't need anymore and maybe decide on the things I should buy. I got my first paycheck last weekend and it's huge considering that my job was secretarial. The benefits were astounding. I wonder if they are part of my intimacy with Sage, though, because if they were, the accountant would know. I started to clean in the living room where there are not much of things. I just have some magazines and CDs that I had since I was in middle school. The kitchen was where most of the work is needed. I had to throw out the rusty pans and other kitchen utensils and listed all the things I needed to buy in the supermarket tonight or tomorrow morning. I scrubbed the lavatory, the cabinets, the stove, and all the things I needed to scrub. I spent about 2 hours cleaning and rearranging the kitchen. When I was done, I proceeded to my room and started cleaning my dresser. I figured that I also needed more corporate attires for my job. Sage wanted me so much to wear skirts or dresses all the time that he even gave me a bonus for my shopping allowance. I might have to use it if I go shopping. I pulled out a black box from the inside of my dresser. Dust had no mercy covered the entire lid that I coughed so bad when I tried to blow them out. I removed the lid and smiled weakly when I saw what's inside the box. They are albums of me and my dad when he was still alive. I took one photo album and opened it. It was the album of my baby pictures. I smiled to myself as I saw a photo of my dad holding me so dear in his arms, smiling widely. He's looking at me intently like I was the only thing that mattered in the whole world. Looking at how my father smiled as he held me in his arms made me miss him so much. I haven't spent the last of his days on earth in good terms because he's been too busy with my stepmother and her daughter to even bother looking out for me. Remorse and longing. I've been holding on to these two opposite feelings at the same time for too long. I hope Dad forgives me for being a bad daughter in his last moments. I turned the pages and reminisced the happy days I had with him. Looking at these pictures made me realize that I am not mad at him. Maybe I'm just jealous that he didn't give me enough attention when he is too blinded by love. If I could turn back time, I would rewrite my history with him and be a good daughter until the end. It's true when they say one will only realize loss when it is gone. It's true. Losing my father was one of the darkest days in my life. I wiped the tears falling from my eyes as I turned the pages and browsed at more pictures. The next thing I know, I was bawling my eyes out, longing for my father to forgive me. It took me more than 2 hours to calm down. I took a shower and decided to go to the supermarket nearby to shop for kitchen utensils and for my groceries. Sage told me he'll stop by tonight. I might as well buy dinner for us too. I took a cart from and started walking to the kitchen utensil section inside. I looked into the pans and other cooking materials and chose the best. I think I'll be better if you choose the other brand. A voice came from my side. I tore my attention at the pan towards the owner of the voice. I raised my brow and he smiled, showing his deep dimple on his right cheek. The materials used in the other pan are better than those in that, he said. You won't even need oil if you choose the other pan. I stared at him, confused of the reason why he should care. But then again, he's actually right. The other pan is more expensive but it is better indeed. Thanks, I uttered as I picked up the other pan and placed it on my shopping cart. He smirked and looked at me, making me look at his features wholly. He looked like he was a lead character taking out of a novel. Blondie, shaggy hair, cute deep dimple on the right cheek, perfect set of white teeth and a pair of blue eyes. He looked so real and novelistic, if there is even a word. Are you from around here? He asked me. I nodded. I've been living in the neighborhood for more than 4 years, I replied. He nodded. Nice. I just moved in, he said as he pushed his cart and walked beside me. Well, I guess that's why this is the first time that I saw him. Not that I am a socialite anyway. The neighborhood is nice, I said as I began looking into mugs. Or I guess, he chuckled beside me. Yeah, my next door neighbor shouts like hell every morning. It's already taking a toll on me. I bit my lip and suddenly felt embarrassed. I guess I don't know much about the neighborhood because aside from Mrs. Oliver, I haven't really talked to anyone in our building. Anyway, I'm Chase, he said as he extended his hand in front of me. for a handshake. "Heaven," I uttered as I took his hand. He smiled widely. "Heaven, nice name," he complimented. "Thanks." I smiled while biting my lower lip. We continued to shop and only decided to go separate ways when we headed home. Apparently, he lived 4 blocks from my apartment, so it's not a hassle that we walked home together. Chase took my number and I got his too. He said he'll invite me into his place when he's done fixing and arranging it. I gladly accepted the offer. He seemed nice, and I liked his blue eyes. It's refreshing and different. "Are you going to smile like that while I wait for you to come home?" I almost dropped all the things I am holding when I heard Sage's voice. I looked at him and saw him leaning onto his rover while looking at me like I am about to get punished again. He unclasped his arms on his chest and walked to me to get my grocery bags. He looked at me with his furrowed brows and intense gaze. "You went to the grocery?" I nodded, suddenly embarrassed without any reason. "You could have told me so I got the things you'd need," he told me as he walked inside the building, straight to my place. I unlocked the door with my keys and opened it wide so Sage can pass through. "Have you been waiting for long?" I asked. His jaw clenched. "Not too long," he replied, "but I was there when you were busy talking to some blondie fucker." I frowned in front of him. Did he have to call Chase like that? "I just met him in the supermarket," I replied. He took a deep breath and sighed before placing the bags on the table. He looked at me and walked to my side before pulling me close to his body. "Baby, I thought we've already talked about the things I do when I'm jealous," he asked with his cold voice before crushing his lips on mine. "Ah, that." I welcomed his lips and immediately returned his kisses without questions. Sage's lips hovered over mine as his hand stroked my back up and down. He leaned me on the kitchen table without breaking the contact of our lips. His tongue thrusted inside my mouth and I savored each moment. He cupped my bottom and made me sit on the kitchen table. I automatically wrapped my arms around his neck while he spread my knees and placed his body in the space between. His hands kept roaming around my back to my legs covered by the thin cloth of my black leggings. "I told you to wear skirts," he breathed as he kissed my jaw. I moaned for his name as I tipped my head to the side to give him better access on my neck. He licked my neck and I almost squirmed because it tickled. "He was looking at your neck," he uttered as he continued to shower it with wet kisses. "I didn't like it, baby." I closed my eyes and let pleasure take over me again. It only happens with Sage. I am like this only when I am with him. Only when he is kissing me like this. "You're mine," he said with authority. "You're mine alone." He glided his nose on my neck, and I gasped as I felt him suck my collarbone. "Damn!" He suddenly broke away from me, making me look at him confused. His eyes blazing with desire met mine and suddenly, the confusion I have in me is gone. "Take off your clothes," he commanded. I immediately nodded and held the hem of my t-shirt and removed it over my head. I saw his jaw clench as he stared at me stripping. It gave me courage. I unhooked my brassiere and let my breast free in front of him. Sage looked so interested and strained at the same time. I bit my lip as I saw his eyes fixated on my chest. When I was about to hold the waistband of my tights, he pulled me in for a searing and hungry kiss. His hands are on my breast as his tongue plunged inside my mouth. His fingers played with my nipple, making me moan while he owned my mouth. I feasted on his hair while I gave in to him completely. Sage, I gasped when he pulled one nipple into his mouth and sucked it like a sweet candy. I looked down and saw him sucking me with his eyes closed while his other hand is playing with my other breast. I held onto his head as I pushed him closer to me. Fuck, I need more. I arched my back as I felt his hand travel down my waist, making its way towards my center. I let out a whimper when I felt his hand there, rubbing me tenderly. He groaned when I suddenly convulsed. I've reached my limit as he rubbed me in there. Please, I almost couldn't recognize my voice. Hmm, he hummed as he sucked the sweet spot on my neck. Please what, baby? He asked in a seductive tone. I moaned incoherent words as he continued to kiss every inch of me. Tell me, I gasped when I felt him touching me in there again. Undress me, I let out in a frustrated growl. He chuckled as he planted a sweet kiss on my lips. A little too impatient, are we? He teased me as he continued to rub me in there. Please, I was crying. I wanted more. I want him to touch me there. I want him so much. Oh my God. He placed his hand at the back of my head and began kissing me intensely. His mouth roughly hovered against mine, but I don't know why I am loving every bit of it. I removed his sweatshirt and hugged his body tight on mine. The heat he is giving me is making me even want for more. I traced his tattoo on his left chest and I felt him moaning against the kiss. He brought me down the table and removed the remaining clothing on me in one swift motion. He then cupped my buttocks once again and placed me on the table. This dinner is my favorite, he said as he pushed on the table, making me lie down. He spread my legs and delved into my wet core. I bit my lip numerous times. I felt every flick of his tongue in me. My hands seemed to have minds of their own because I touched my breast, copying the way he massaged it every time. Sage, I want you, I called him. He looked up at me and with his clenched jaw, he unbuckled his belt and removed his jeans and boxers at the same time, revealing his erected member. Oh, I moaned as I felt him entering me slowly. I pulled his face close to mine and kissed him with all my might. I felt him fill me to the brim, and when he did, he started thrusting in and out of me. My hips met his every thrust, hitting my sensitive spot multiple times until we came together inside me. We both panted in exhaustion after. He buried his head on my neck while he breathed heavily. His hand cupped my cheek. No one is allowed to make you feel this way but me, he uttered before planting a kiss on my jaw. You're not allowed, baby. You are not allowed. I bit my lip as I nodded. I don't think I'd ever allow anyone to touch me like this too. The feeling is only for Sage. This is only for Mr. Black. Sage and I cuddled on the couch until we finally felt hungry. He only asked me the ingredients that I bought and he was already on his way to the kitchen. He raised his brow at me when he saw me watching him as he prepared the ingredients. What? He asked, almost laughing. I pursed my lips in a thin line. I wonder how you learned to cook, I told him. He bit his lip before looking at me. I have been living since I was 18, so I had to learn to cook for myself if I wanted to live. You can hire a cook, I pointed out. He looked at me. I don't hire that easily. If you could see that, he said as he started chopping the vegetables. I pouted. He's right. He's a little too picky. I remember his business partner asking him why he only has one secretary when he has a lot of projects lined up in his sleeve. And his answer was, I am extremely picky when it comes to my assistants. Well, I guess it's not just for his assistants. It's for people in his life in general. Buy food outside then? I asked again. He glanced at me. I don't like going to stores or restaurants alone, he replied. I rolled my eyes. Why does he always make me feel like he's different from the rest? I hate that I had to think of him that way. I sat down quietly and watched his back while he cooked. I wondered what happened when their family friend. I wonder what he did with them. I wonder what he did the whole day. But then, I shouldn't ask that. Why would I ask that? Who am I to ask that? I took a deep breath and started to draw the line again. My eyes accidentally grazed the table and all the things that happened there between us made me blush. Damn, now I would have to look at this table while imagining how he made me feel lying there. I believe I spaced out for a while because I was startled when Sage kissed my cheek. I looked at him and saw him smirking down at me. What are you thinking? He asked in a meaningful tone. I narrowed my eyes at him. Nothing. I looked away. He chuckled as he hugged me from behind. He leaned his chin on top of my head. Come on, are you acting shy on me now? After everything that we did? He asked. I tried to look at him but he planted a kiss on my lips instead. Don't ask me questions about that, I whined. Why? He asked, chuckling. Because, because, because I am embarrassed. He laughed and kissed the top of my head. You shouldn't get embarrassed. We are consenting adults, he told me. I almost choked on my saliva as I heard what he just said. I narrowed my eyes at him. Consenting adults, huh? He laughed and kissed my lips. Besides, we're really close. He closed his eyes as if he savored the kiss. Really close that I want you to come with me to my place every single time. In the morning, Sage went back to their family house and I was left alone. He asked me what I was going to do the whole day and I said I'd only be inside the house. He seemed happy with what I replied because he gave me a full kiss on the lips for that. I know I shouldn't be feeling like this. I shouldn't be feeling like I'm his girlfriend. No, I am not his girlfriend. We are not together and I don't think we will be together. He is my boss and that's the only reason I'll need. I started to distance myself from him the whole day. He's been texting me, telling me whatever he's doing but I was ignoring him. I'll just tell him that I slept it off. He wouldn't be mad if that's what he knew. Anyway, I took a bath and changed my clothes. Yesterday, I planned to visit my parents' graves. I figured I didn't have to tell Sage about it because he doesn't need to know it anyway. He has his own business today and I don't think I have to intercept. I wore a knee-length cream dress paired with a pair of white flats. I also put on light makeup to make myself more presentable in front of my late parents. I hung my bag on my shoulder before looking at the messages on the phone. From Mr. Black. It's boring here. I have to be with Mom as she accompanies her friend and her daughter. From Mr. Black. What are you doing, baby? From Mr. Black. Damn, I'd rather cuddle with you on the couch. From Mr. Black. Why aren't you replying? From Mr. Black. Are you sleeping? From Mr. Black. Heaven. I sighed as I read all of his texts. He sent them in 10 minutes intervals. I don't even know if he's concentrating on what he's doing. He seemed to be only in his phone. As I locked the door, my phone beeped again. From Chase. Good morning, Heaven. Are you going out today? I narrowed my eyes as I typed in a reply to Chase. Yes, how about you? I placed my phone inside my bag and planned on replying to him in the cab if he replies. It's already 2 o'clock in the afternoon and I don't want to be in the cemetery any later than 4. It still creeps me out. I bid goodbye to Mrs. Oliver as I left the building. But then, when I went out of the front door, I was shocked to see Chase standing there in his sky blue shirt and khaki shorts. He's leaning on a white Lexus SUV similar to what we owned before. He beamed at me, showing his deep dimple on his right cheek. He then looked at me from head to toe. Heading somewhere? He asked in his usual playful voice. I walked to him with a raised brow. What are you doing here? I asked him, totally ignoring his question before. He shrugged and placed his hand in his pocket. Well, I'm kind of bored, so I thought I could be your chaperone. Creepy. If he isn't this handsome, I would really run away from him like a crazy old woman, but since he looked good, I could keep the feeling of awkwardness inside me. We only met yesterday and I think it's too early to be with him alone inside a car. I don't trust him that much yet. So, what do you think? He asked me again. I bit my lip and cursed myself multiple times before nodding at him. You agree? He asked in delight and almost in disbelief. I smiled and nodded again. He beamed at me and walked straight to the passenger side of his car and opened the door. He motioned for me to come in and so I did. He smiled at me before closing the door and running to the driver's side. He fastened his seatbelt and revved the engine to life before giving me an excited glance. So, where are we going? He asked. I smiled weakly. To the cemetery, I replied. And then, I remembered that I have not disclosed that part of my life to someone else. Maybe I have with Yena, but with the people I know now, no one knows. Cemetery? Chase's tone changed as he uttered the word. He seemed confused and sad now. I smiled at him. I am going to visit my parents, I explained. His mouth widened but he nodded in understanding. I'm sorry for your loss, he said sadly. I shook my head. No, it's okay. It's been a long time, I told him. He looked at me for a while before taking a breath. All right, for today, I will be your friend and your companion in visiting your parents. There was something in his voice that comforted me. Or maybe it's just the fact that I have actually disclosed these things about my parents to him that made me feel relieved. Or maybe because he makes me feel like I am not alone because he's going to be with me. One way or another. I think Chase is a good man and he is going to be a good friend of mine. My mom died when I was born. I started as we stared at the stone of my mother. It was a choice between the two of us and my dad chose me. Technically, it was also my mom's choice. It was her death wish. Chase didn't speak beside me. Well, I like that he's only listening. I took a deep breath. Dad always told me stories about mom. He'd always tell me that Mom is the best woman he's ever met in his life. And so, he married her to not let her slip away. I beat back a sob, but I took away the best woman in his life. I felt Chase's arms pull me closer to him for a hug. You did not take her from him, he said softly as he tried to console me. Dad may not have told me, but sometimes I see him crying alone while holding onto my mom's photo frame. Every time I see him cry, I am reminded of how I am the reason why Mom died. If it wasn't for me, she would still be alive. If she hadn't insisted that they'd save me, she would have lived with Dad, and nothing like this would have happened. You are their angel. I think that's why you're named Heaven, Chase said, chuckling while comforting me. I laughed and pulled away from him. I'm sorry you had to see me cry like this, I told him. He shook his head and smiled. I'm actually glad that I am here with you. At least you are not crying alone. I bit my lip and smiled. He's right. At least I am not alone. We walked towards my dad's grave, and I was surprised to see familiar faces in there. It's my stepmother, stepsister, another woman, and Sage. My eyes narrowed as Sage stood beside Julia, my stepsister, looking so bored. When he lifted his head, his eyes automatically saw me and widened in surprise. Julia also saw me and nudged her mother to look at me. Great! Now, they are all looking at me. Even Sage, Mom. What are you doing here? Josephine, my stepmother, asked in her usual high-pitched tone. I took a deep breath and tried to calm myself. I can't raise my voice right here. No, not in front of my dead father. Julia glared at me as she hung onto Sage. Well, she didn't like me way back, so why would she like me now? But that is not what hit me. The fact that she's clinging onto Sage is what I didn't like to see. And why is Sage not doing anything? But then again, I shouldn't bother. Or at least, I shouldn't show that I am bothered. You didn't even bother looking out for your father and now you're... Josephine looked hysterical and acted so stressed when she saw me. She's still the same. She's still the best actress I know. Those Grammy winners pale in comparison. Sage's mother held Josephine, as if trying to comfort her. And that's when Julia stepped in. She stepped closer to me while showcasing her ugliest glare. Oh damn! I wonder how Nanny Bella put up with these two for so long when I was gone. You don't have the right to come to Dad's, she told me. My eyes narrowed at her. Last time I checked, he's not your daddy. He's my daddy. And I have every right, I replied. Looking at them now made me realize how long I have been hiding from this. I have run away before, but I am not running away now. All of their eyes widened as they heard my reply. Ungrateful brat. Julia was about to hit me when Sage jumped in and held her hand in air. Sage! His mother cried. Sage stood in front of me. You can't hit her, he said in a cold tone, and Julia gasped. Sage yanked her hand down before taking mine and pulling me away from all of them in shock.